Hello everyone. Well, I haven't done a night live stream for a while now. So I think I haven't done one of these evening ones for about a year or so. The reason being is because I don't think I'm as switched on as I am in the morning. You know, you have a coffee and I start my engines up, whereas this is right at the end of the day. I don't think I'm at my best. You can tell me at the end of this chat. But I also realize that I'll be able to get some of you guys on that haven't been able to catch me previously because of the time difference. So when I usually have my streams at 11 in the morning my time, it's the middle of the night for many of you guys. And I think 75% or so of my audience is in the US. So we'll see how many we get, but we've got about 21 people at the moment. So, hey, just a guy. I don't know if have you been on one of my live streams before? I see you in the comment sections a fair bit. 10 a.m. in Boston. Is that Monday morning, isn't it? Right. Hey, Adelaide, you're up late. Anyway, as always, my streams usually I like to talk about the last video, especially the last couple of videos, because they're fresh in the mind of myself and people who have hopefully watched them. And I want to get your thoughts and questions and comments. Remember, if you want to leave or if you want to ask me a question, put some emojis next to your question, a whole bunch, at least 3, just so I can see them in the stream. Just so I'll be able to get to them better, because sometimes I don't see your questions amongst all the comments and conversation that people are having. So, yeah, the recent videos, I've been getting really tired at guys repeating memes instead of talking, because I really think the only way forward past a lot of guys' pain, especially in relationships, like I've said, a lot of guys, their major anchor that they're dragging behind them is heartbreak from a previous relationship. And you can have hobbies and get on with life, but you can get on with life a lot better, I think, and from my experience, when you actually face those things, when you don't make excuses for them. And I feel like a lot of guys are, when you talk to them. When I talk to guys on Discord, when you hear their comments in the comment section, sometimes I feel like they just look at the title and they reflex to a clever meme answer. And especially the last few videos, I've tried to make a point of saying, look, I'm not saying to care what people think about you, to be a people pleaser, to bend over for people, to supplicate, to be a nothing, and just let people use you and push you around like a puppet. I'm saying, if you could actually observe yourself as a third person, how you interact, where your weak spots are, how could you be a better person? That is what I'm saying. And I kind of tried to repeat that theme in the last 3 videos. Especially straight after the videos, you get people jumping in to make comments, and I can appreciate people having fun, right? But if I like, some of the videos are like what was the title of a couple of them recently? So recently it was like, do people like you? Are you easy to be around? So that's for you. Are you, do you have personality traits that even you would find hard to be around all the time, but because you're not having to face them, you just project them out? Like you're like a car letting off fumes. Because you're going this way, you never have to face the fumes you leave behind. It's that kind of thing. So if you're an observer, observing how you interact and your personality traits, could you objectively see that there's things you need to work on so you can get on in the world better. I'm not saying to bow down to people. I'm not saying you have to date, go out, marry, socialize in ways or with people that don't suit you or in ways you don't want. Do it to whatever degree you want or don't. But I'm saying objectively look at yourself as a person, and are there traits that if you refine them and sharpen them, you would make your life so much easier. The pressure valve would be released and you wouldn't be as annoyed. And because you wouldn't be as tense and annoyed, then you'll be able to kind of learn and integrate a lot of stuff without being on guard at the front, trying to defend yourself by all the things you're avoiding and negative character traits. So the last couple of videos were, do people like you? Are you easy to be around? Why don't you like people? And the last one is, what do you want from people? And I'm talking about your kind of person. Again, it's self-reflective. What would you want from a person like you? Could you be friends with you? So what would you want from a person like you if you met yourself? So all of these were designed to make you think about yourself. Not always just solipsistically, because you're living in a world with people. And I always encourage people to be self-respecting, to think of themselves, to not take crap, not be walked all over. And a lot of guys, they're tired of being the nice guy and being walked all over in relationships, doing everything right, but it doesn't work out. And it's not just about women bad, men good, or vice versa in women's camp. But if you get yourself right, everything else becomes easier. I think there was a quote, I left a phrase over one of my videos, is that you get hurt less when you don't give consent for it, as in, you know yourself to a degree, you know your boundaries to such a degree that there's less risk of actually being hurt because you've got control of yourself. You sort of what's the best term for it? I don't want to get too airy-fairy and lose people. But yeah, anyway, guys, hey, Boffin. Again, if you want to leave questions, make sure you put a few emojis over on the right. I have to think opposite. But I'll read out a couple of comments that people left on the last few videos, which were pretty cool. Colin JM for the video, do people like you and are you easy to be around? He said, likable is subjective. I'm probably not very likable as I have an immovable code that I live by. That's the kind of thing that I agree with. Have a real a self-respect where you have really strong ethics that you're very aware of. That when someone approaches them and starts poking at them, you kind of know, hey, don't touch that. I know what you're doing. Whereas when you don't have your own moral philosophy and your own ethics, people tend to do the same thing, and then afterwards, you just feel bad. You get used. Relationships fail. You don't know what happened. You're trying to think about how you would have fixed things after they happened. Dan said, yes, I am, because I'm humble, a good listener, and have a positive attitude. Now, I mentioned this in the second last video and the last one. Actually listening and not just spitting out memes, what you want to say, and then when the other person's talking, you don't listen. Listening is a great way, not only to humble yourself, but to learn something new. Like if you're defensive and you think, I know everything about women and relationships, I'm not dating, I'm blocking out the world, then anyone that kind of questions and says, hey, you know about this thing that you're really sure about, have you thought about, no, don't talk to me. I know exactly what I believe. You're not going to change my mind. And the other person might be just saying, no, I want to have a conversation about it. Have you? No, unless you're prepared to talk to me about it in the way I know, unless you're prepared to talk to me as though you're going to church, to read it line by line in a way to me that I approve of, I'm not gonna I'm not going to be philosophical about what I believe. And this is very dangerous. Today we've got a world full of people being too psychologically clever and not philosophically conversational. Like, if you believe what you believe, there shouldn't be any binary way to talk about it. You should want to talk about what you think you believe in. So if I'm interested in these topics, if I think I know myself, then I'm not going to be afraid. Like, if someone says, human, you don't like, I don't know, you don't like writing, or you don't like, you don't love your parents, I'd kind of laugh. And if they pose the question, well, did you think such and such and so forth? I'd be interested to talk about it. I wouldn't get offended. But I've noticed these people, they get really offended, and they get defensive if you don't talk exactly about their sect the way they want to talk about it. It doesn't speak of a security about what you believe. It speaks like, I'm insecure about talking philosophically about what I believe in any other way except repeating the lines in my Bible about my belief. So in Manosphere, they keep repeating lines about women that they all feel good about patting themselves on the back about. But the moment you start to philosophically talk about any of those points, you want to know, what do you think about she'll never love you? What have you experienced? What have you, what conclusions have you come to? What ethics have you developed after realizing this or that? What are you going to do going forward? What boundaries have you set? How has your moral philosophy changed? How have you adjusted your life? What do you think's a waste of time now? Like, no, women are just bad. It's like, okay, I can't talk to you then. Okay, no questions. Okay. Burkhart says, am I the bad guy for cutting people out of my life after they've crossed my boundaries? No, not necessarily. I don't think so. I warn them beforehand. No. Yep. And that I'll act accordingly, yet I'm still painted as the bad guy at the end. I completely agree with you, Burkhart. If you've warned people beforehand, don't cross my boundaries, and they still do, you have every right to... see, this is the problem with doing late streams. My brain isn't as active as it is when it is when I wake up. You have every right, especially if you warned a person. A lot of people, they think they can keep poking you and call your bluff. And I've experienced this with exes many years ago in relationships where they bluff. And during an argument, they'll say, well, I don't know. Well, if you don't like something, you can just get out or you can leave. And then I just start grabbing my bag and I start leaving, and they run to the door and they block the door and they say, I can't believe you're about to leave. I don't think there's anything wrong with your statement, Burkhart. If people keep crossing boundaries, like for instance, let's exaggerate, but not necessarily. You tell, say, someone you're dating, you're falling for, you say, look, respect this, don't cross this line and we're good. But they keep poking it because they want to. Because a lot of people like testing you. They like testing your limits. But if you've actually said, if you cross that line, if you press that button, I will never forgive you. Don't press that button. Don't open that room and we're good. And I'm telling you why I don't want you to open that room. Or maybe I don't want to tell you. It has nothing to do with us. It might be my fear, my insecurity, something I will never be able to forgive you for if you cross it. And then they do it, and then they think, oh, well, I thought you were joking. Why the F would I be joking about a very important subject? People very well know when it's a joke, where it's like, I don't like cheese, for instance, and someone puts cheese under your nose and it irritates you, you might be able to forgive them. But something that has traumatized you, something that's a fear, that's an insecurity, I think it's really rude and obnoxious if you know someone has a fear and insecurity. If you care about them, you do everything to avoid their sore spot. You will respect their sore spot, especially like what you've done is you've warned them beforehand. So more power to you. You warn them, they still did it. You followed through. That's the word I was looking for, following through. And it wasn't a threat. It was saying, no, this is what will happen if you press that button. I'm just warning you. And if you do it, it's not a joke. And they do it, and so they can't blame. They're trying to shame you afterwards by saying, oh, it was just a joke, lighten up. It's like, no, you won't take responsibility for making a mistake. These are the consequences. You knew very well. Omega Sigma says, could you please comment on the law of projection and how it might interfere with our ability to relate with one another? In what context? Give me an example, law of projection, as in, there's various ways where basically people are offloading their things they need to work on, or things that may be their fault or their problem, onto you, so you carry their burden. But it's probably better to give examples. Give me an example, Omega Sigma, and I'll talk around it. Ted1775 says, Human, can you please elaborate on the recent point that you made about don't raise your standards above those of the people that you are dealing with? Yeah, I thought it was kind of pretty simple, self-explanatory. I think I might have gotten it from Stefan Molyneux back in the day. But it's basically, there's nothing wrong with treating people nice, but it's like, don't keep giving when you realize you're just being taken advantage of. Similarly with people, if you keep giving and they're not, if you keep going down a road where you think they're with you but they're not actually with you, don't keep going down that road. Don't keep paying when you think they're going to chip in or contribute. Don't have a conversation where you think it's one kind of conversation and it's very difficult, and you know what I mean? You keep giving much more, and you keep giving, and you keep wasting time. This happens in relationships where guys are too nice or women are too nice, and they think, well, I'll just be quiet, and afterwards, at least I'll win because I can say, look, I was just nice and nice and nice and nice and nice, and then it turned to crap, and then at least I'll be the nice person. Well, no one cares. You wasted your time. They took advantage of you. Give, but know when to stop. There's nothing wrong with giving first if that's what you want to do, because you genuinely want to. Like, you don't feel like you're losing by giving the first, taking the first step or offering first or whatever. But if it's always one-sided, you notice it, you don't like it, and you start to resent it, stop. It's the when you keep going, that's the problem. Also, I posed something to a lot of guys in the last video, I think. Was it the last one or the second last one? Was, in terms of what kind of person are you? Are you easy to be around? Do you think you have objectively good qualities? What do you need to work on? And if you're not working on them, you're just going to get the same things that you've always gotten. What do you bring to the table? Because a lot of guys kind of talk about, oh, women bring nothing to the table. But when you talk to a lot of guys, they don't even have much of a personality, or especially if you don't pick a compatible person that has interests like you. If there's two empty people going on a date, you can't really say that women are coming with nothing. Okay, you come with your wallet and money and you pay for the date, and she comes with her body, and that's what she might be offering. But how are you figuratively any better than each other? You're only bringing sort of something superficial to the table. What do you bring to the table as a person? Your personality, your values, stuff by which you'd actually want to commit to a person and have this companion as a person in your life. You know, what qualities do you like in a friend? That's one thing. Like, the older you get, you realize companionship, a lot of it is very similar to what you look for in a friend, and that's where your failings were, where you were dating blind, just going for the hotness of the other person. Did I elaborate on the point on not raising your standards above those people that you are dealing with? It's basically, yeah, don't give more then you're prepared to lose, and don't give way more than you need to where you keep getting taken advantage of. Stop giving $100 when the person's not giving you anything back. There's no reciprocation. Stop playing a tennis match with someone who doesn't hit it back over the fence. You can forgive them once or twice, or they weren't looking, or they didn't see the shot. But after a few times, don't fool yourself into thinking, well, I'll just be nice and continue to give. And like a lot of people have this noble, almost biblical notion of, I will be good no matter what. That is a terrible one. It's a great way to be taken advantage of, especially in this world where a lot of people don't have social norms like in the past. We used to have religion to kind of keep people at least a little bit honest socially. You could shame each other where you didn't sort of reciprocate kindness. If someone said hello, you'd be civil to them. Being too nice and never having any limits to being nice will have the world and other people taking advantage of you quite a bit, because that gets rewarded quite a bit today. Some of the richest, most affluent people with a lot of power, they're the most selfishly arrogant that don't mind stepping over anyone to get what they want. And people applaud them. You hear these comments like, well, it serves that old person right for being so stupid that they let this other person take their money. It's like, okay, what if that old person was your grandmother? It's like, it really shows today how cruel people can be. So back to the point, don't give more than you're prepared to lose, and don't say, I'll just give more and then they'll be nice. People aren't. Until they prove they're nice people, that you can trust them, that it was just a mistake, that they didn't see it, don't give more than you should. That's basically it. Raphael, thank you very much for the super chat donation. He says, I'm a good listener and I avoid talking about sensitive subjects when I'm around people I'm not really close with. I did that to maintain my life drama-free. I have a friend who I can go deep on subjects that are not politically correct. It's a balance. Yeah, I've said it a few times with friends. I don't talk about this stuff as in depth as I do with some of you guys. And I actually started my channel because I had no one to talk to about this. I had no way to express, or with no one to express philosophically the depths to which I wanted to sort of talk about a lot of this stuff and to work it out myself. So if you really do need to express it, and to this kind of depth and in ways you really need to sort of get forensically into the weeds to understand it, you got to have tact with who you speak to. I know there's like some of the closest people and some of my best friends, and they'll be lifelong friends, but there's some I cannot talk philosophically in depth like this with. And those same friends, they will be there for me in a heartbeat when I need them in life. But they just don't have the wiring to speak that way. You know, I've got great friends where their way of talking about philosophy, heartbreak, life, and all those things is, what are you going to do? Okay, that's just the way they are. Or if I start scratching the surface philosophically, I can see their eyebrow raising and thinking like, well, you're overthinking things. I don't know. I can tell them not comfortable or not knowing where I'm going. Whereas when these conversations happen with me, with people, I jump at it. I'm sort of ravenous with these subjects. I find them very, very interesting. Yeah, the one thing, like, straight after I released some of my recent videos, you had these knee-jerk comments, like, I don't need anyone. I'm a loner. Who needs anyone? Don't care. It's like, come on, man. You go to the supermarket, you see people. Your life's easier if you can at least get along with people in just a pedestrian way. Are there ways you can adjust your life, your personality, not change who you are? I keep having to sort of repeat that for these overly sensitive people, but Another comment from Mr. Highway was, it's near impossible to find someone who likes you for your character, and not just because not just because you simply make them feel good. Yeah, a lot of people, they think they like you, but only because you make them feel good. They don't actually like your personality or character. They couldn't be with you. Think of comedians that make people laugh. You couldn't be with them. They couldn't be friends. Or I can name a lot of authors, and I love the words and how they think, but I've seen them in interviews. They're not great human beings. I couldn't be a friend with this person, but they make me feel good with what they say, with things they offer. Mr. Highway continues, relationships today are based on mutual pleasantries rather than respect. Yeah, a lot of them are. But it's good to be aware of what you need. As I said in my recent videos, what do you need from people? Then you'll know this person's an acquaintance. This is pleasantries. This person is deep and meaningful. This is a good friend. This is relationship material. Do you even... I mean, a lot of guys just talk about, do you enjoy being around the person? But philosophically speaking and intellectually speaking and value speaking, when you can point to why you like being around this person, especially if you want to date, marry, have kids, you want to spend a committed life with someone, it's not just trusting the feeling, because that feeling could just be biology at the start going, oh, pretty girl, me like biology, you know. But if you can actually see the personality that you love being around, you can talk to the person, you have the same values. I remember there's an old man when I was young that said something that I'll always remember. He said, there are 3 things you need to find someone for you, or a committed relationship. I can't exactly remember the words. He said, you need to be physically attracted, right? He says, that's easy. Everyone can do that. You come across someone you find physically attractive. That's your biology. Ooh, me want ugh stick thing in hole, right? And then biology says, after you've done the deed, it's like, all right, on your way. You've actually satisfied biology. Biology throws you away. It doesn't care about your heartbreak, about the kids you don't see anymore, whatever, because you hadn't thought about the personality. So the first thing is you're physically attracted. Easy. Or it's harder today, but as in you're physically attracted, but you never get to even be with the person. Physically attracted, right? Emotionally and intellectually attracted, that's really hard. Most people don't even have that. And third and most important, that's very rare, is you want the same things out of life. Physically attracted, mentally attracted, same things out of life, values and all that. But you won't know why you feel good with someone unless you can consciously see those other 2 things, number 2 and 3. Then you can feel secure. Is like, I know why I'm with this person. I know why I care about this person. When someone asks me, like I've mentioned in videos, ask the girlfriend you're having trouble with, just to reveal the problem. Let's just put it out in the open. Ask her, what do you like about me? Tell me. And see if she actually conveys any human qualities. Or if it's how you make her feel, what you do for her. If you're a good father, you're a good husband, you're a good provider. But is she mentioning Aristotelian values? Kindness, empathy, just a lot of human characteristics that pertain to you, that things that she sees, that she really appreciates. Like, does she love you? Or as someone's mentioning, does she love how you make her feel or what you do for her? Anyone can do stuff for you. Comedians can make me laugh. Yeah, a hooker can make me feel good in bed, but not so much in the other stuff. So I think people are sort of drunk on just sort of the ease of getting together and switching off their brain because they think, oh, that's biology. But you can actually start to think about, hang on a minute, why do I like this person? Why am I attracted to them? Why do I want them? G. Gered says, how do you deal with people who try to shame you for your decisions? Don't engage. Give them nothing. If you can actually see that they're trying to shame you, that they're not trying to at least have a conversation where they think they're right and they're giving you a chance to give your point of view. But if they're just trying to shame you, like again, I'll give the example from a guy's point of view where women will say, oh, you can't get laid. Oh, who hurt you? It's like they don't want to hear, like, you've got a legitimate reason for, I don't want to date. Or your spouse, your wife might have passed away. You might have had some tragic event where you just don't want to do it anymore. It's ridiculous that I have to give the example from a woman's point of view to make her realize, hey, guys can feel pain too. If a woman had a miscarriage, you wouldn't just say, just try again. Get over it. Some unborn baby just hurt you. It's like you would have sympathy. So if you see the person shaming you, don't engage. Don't waste your time because they're not respecting you. Remember, if people shame you, they're telling you you're no good for no reason. Guilt is I did something wrong. Shame is I am something wrong. So if they're saying you are something wrong without context, without an example of why, then laugh, walk away, change the subject, or tell them how stupid they're being. Burkhardt says, have you heard of the continuum of self-scale and how it tends to define our relationships, all of our kinds, our extreme is neurotic codependence and the others pathological narcissism? No, I haven't. I've been penning an idea about making a video of not getting too hung up on everyone is starting to get onto pathologizing and labeling things with psychological terms as a way to explain things. I don't think it's a healthy thing to do. 99% of the time, your ex might have been a bad person, cruel. But you can't just say, this is what I think people are running away with, from facing their own problems so they can be better later on, is that if you say, my ex was a narcissist, rather than, which probably is more honest and is more likely, my ex was awful, I didn't see it, she was just an average human being that treated me wretchedly, awfully, cruelly, then at least you can actually reflect. But what happens when you start going, I went out with a narcissist? It's like, I don't have to learn anything. I was great before I met them. I'm great now, so there's no lesson to be learned. I was just unlucky to meet them. On to the next person. So I wouldn't get caught up in all this stuff. Remember, psychology is just opinion. It's not science. Psychology back in the day used to be a very a subject under the broader umbrella of philosophy back historically. So psychology used to be like a tertiary subject of philosophy. Now, there's a lot, I think there's too much diagnosis, because all it is post-it notes that you label people. Narcissist, men, women, she'll never love you, women of this, men of that, divorce laws. Like, you don't think, what will I do? How will I adjust? What have I learnt? So be very careful about that. In answer to your question, I haven't actually heard of the continuum of self-scale and how it tends to define our relationships. From the phrase itself, does it mean that you just continue being who you are and it sort of defines you going forward, as in the best predictor of future relationships is past relationships? Is it that kind of thing? Codependency, yeah. I'm not quite sure. I kind of skim them and I kind of hear them in passing, but I don't sort of get obsessed with the therapeutic industry and psychology industries definitions, because they're changing them and they're coming up with new ones. Like the recent one, like last year or the year before, was what is it? Was it? I can't remember. I can't remember. Something to do with victim status, like victim CV, competitive victimhood. Like that, yeah. Okay, we know, but there's all these like there's all these kind of monikers that I don't think are helpful. We label people things instead of try to understand them. I don't think it's been working. We're thinking less and less. I should have done the stream probably yesterday, because it's Monday morning in the US. But next time, fellas, and any ladies. I don't think there's any ladies on tonight. Hey, Mr. Highway. I just read out one of your quotes. You're in the AM now, yeah. Everyone's saying good day to me. Usually I'm the one that says that. Now it's night for me. Silent Bobby says, humans are social creatures. Even just saying hi to the cashier at the grocery store, and that being the only interaction you have for the day, makes a major difference versus talking to no one. This is true. Sometimes, like, you know, a lot of people say that if they've been sort of cooped up, just going for a walk and getting some air is great, seeing nature. Human beings are part of nature too. Interacting with human beings, if you just go to the grocery store and say hello and hear people speak, that simple interaction, even if you're not directly interacting with people, acts like a subconscious release valve, I think. Don't discount that, guys. Shinobi says, here's a crazy idea. Live in a reality-based reality. Rod says, if you go beyond the pleasantries with friends too much, you become the person who always has the depressing topic. This is true. That's actually a good topic. Everyone is just idle chit-chat and talking about all the safe, politically correct stuff. But if you actually just go deeper and start wanting to get personal, and not as in tell me your scars and deepest secrets, as in like, what's important? Like, I want to hear what you say. I think some people's reaction to actually saying, no, I want to listen to you, is like, oh, no, that's offensive. Like, that's depressing. You're negative. I heard that in my last relationship. Every time I wanted to get philosophical on a topic, it was like, human, you're so negative. I'm not like you. It's like, I'm not being negative. Like, there's another side to this topic that isn't always sunshine and rainbows. How about this? I don't want to talk about that. I want to be positive. There's too much negativity in the world. So that's a good topic. When you want to go beyond chit chat, you become the person who has a depressed. You're the downer in conversations, and who wants to be around that? Again, it's about being around. But if you can't be that way around those people, like I said with some of my friends, I don't actually get into those subjects because I know their boundaries for conversation, and I know mine as well. I'm not going to waste my time. But if I'm around strangers and this topic is at hand around a table, I'll test the waters and give my opinion, but I'm not going to get deep into it if I know it's not going to get anywhere, if I'm going to be wasting my time. Ricky said, did anyone have a hard time seeing people as individuals after a change of worldview? I don't treat people poorly, but there is a wall of apathy that makes caring about others difficult. That's true. You've probably seen in my last, the second last video, I've kind of had it with all these, like a lot of guys talking tough all the time, and they don't want to talk honestly about why they're hurt, what happened. I'm sick of this. Gynocentrism, women, divorce courts, and like a corporatized, feminized. You know, it's like, dude, you're throwing bumper sticker memes at me. Do you want to talk really about what's on your mind? Like, even posing the question, like, what kind of person are you? What do you want? I'd rather have interesting personal discussions. Sometimes I wonder, some of these people, what they get out of watching my videos. My videos are fairly personal. Like, I'm interested in how we can think better. I think a lot of guys' problems can be solved philosophically, not psychologically, not scientifically, but philosophically. And you look all throughout history, all the metaphors, all the sort of the Stoic quotes, it's all philosophical thinking as a way through your problems so you can understand yourself and how to operate in the world, how you think, what you say, what your values and ethics are. And even the old stories, I mean, we live in narrative, guys. That's why conversation, and you give examples of your story, rather than trying to understand men and women scientifically, you know, women this, men this, divorce courts, 35% of men, 75% of divorces are caused by women. It's like numbers and science are not going to make you internalize how you're going to adjust now, whether you do relate to women or not. Like, we internalize best through stories. Why do you think through history, conversation and using metaphors like the Minotaur at the middle of the maze, you go alone through the maze with nothing, and you're going to face the Minotaur at the end or in the middle, and it's a metaphor for facing what's inside of you. But now we don't want to talk about metaphors and stories and narratives like that by which we can understand our lives and the choices we could make and how we can be more courageous and face these things. No, we're going to say, oh, the data says this, and so I'm going to avoid it. This is a bit dangerous, so I'm going to avoid it. I'm just going to warm myself up. I don't need to learn lessons. Why should I look in the mirror? Why should I learn anything where I'm just going to build walls around myself? I don't need to learn anything. Why do I need to learn anything when my ex had BPD? Why do I need to learn anything when my ex was a sociopath? Like, I'm great. They're a sociopath. I looked it up on the internet. A friend of a friend told. That's fine. Okay. Stay a 5-year-old. Remember, guys, if you want to ask questions, put a couple of emojis next to your question. Mr. Highway says, you can be friends with someone you don't like. I think we are too stringent with what words mean. You can have acquaintances as well. When I talk about friends, I talk about sort of intimate. Again, my definition, a real friend is someone you're going to invite to your home, that you can sort of trust in your home, staying at your home, things like that, sort of more that you reserve for intimate sort of family and friends and things like that. The rest, yeah, they could be friends, but mostly I consider them acquaintances. He says, I think we're too stringent with what words mean. In many cases, rivalries are built on an underlying friendship. True. Respect, like Batman and Superman. Git says, do you guys think that therapy is still good in general if you have trouble dealing with your emotions? It can be. I always say it as a last resort because it's so dangerous. It's dominated by females. Most people who become therapists and psychiatrists go into it to work their own problems out. When you actually look at a lot of people in the psychiatric industry, they have traits of BPD and a lot of the neuroses that are the buzzwords today. And it's hard to find a therapist who gets you. A lot of them are just going to pathologize you and put you in boxes and want you to come back for return business. They're not really interested in you healing. They're interested in you emoting and coming back and then paying another, whatever it is, $100, $200, $300, whatever it costs. I'd say if you've got no one else to talk to, first point of call, good friends and family that you can open up to, that care enough to listen. And because when you go to therapy anyway, at the end of the day, you want to work your own problems out. So I'd say therapy, last resort if you have to, but then you need to find a good therapist too. And when you're going through a lot of crap, having to put the burden of, I've got to be discerning enough and level-headed enough to find a good therapist and keep moving on until I do, while you're drowning and you just want someone to save you, that's really hard. It's too much to take on. So I'd say if you don't have friends, family, someone in your personal life to open up to, sure, but it's not easy. It's not a matter of every therapist is great. Most of them are, a lot of them are crackpots. I won't say most of them are crackpots. Falcon Black, thank you very much for the super chat donation. He says, off topic, following the Olympics, 3 p.m. UK time. No, I haven't watched it yet. The other night it was starting. I was visiting my mother, and yeah, I couldn't be. I don't care about the ceremony at the start. I like the classic events like track and field and things like that. But yeah, I actually forgot that the Olympics is on at the moment. Or everything that's happening in the world kind of makes you switch off a lot. And I think everyone's gone off their rhythm. They're not plugged into, even in superficial ways like this, entertainment, like Olympic Games bringing people together briefly, even if it is in a very surface way. Everyone kind of feels like, nah, life has stopped, so I'm just going to kind of sit here like a lump. And I think parts of me as well have done that. What do you think of the colouring and lighting as well, guys? I had to adjust a few things because it's nighttime here and switch a few lights on. So this is the same filter I use in most of my videos too. So, which I don't use for my regular streams during daylight because it's too harsh. Thinking Mike, hello from Brisbane, mate. Hey, Mike. Just a guy says, Asperger's is just an attempt to label a pathological, very masculine psychological features like seriousness, analytical reasoning, etc. Yeah. I'm not a fan of psychological labeling. From what I've seen, heard and read, is a lot of it can be just explained with basic personality traits and how human beings treat people well or don't. And a lot of these traits let people off the hook. Oh, it's not my fault. I was diagnosed with blah, blah, blah. People need to have sympathy for me. I can't control my blah, blah, blah that I was diagnosed with. Cootie says, what do you think about being too scientific about everything in life and in progress, just dissecting the magic out of it? Yes, I think I touched on this too before. I'm not a fan of psychological labeling because they're trying to use the structure of science emotionally by just labeling things like numbers. So I don't think you can fix emotional problems like relationships and love with calculators and compasses and science. You can understand a male's nature and a female's nature, what women have in them, what they're capable of doing, but it's actually science, and that isn't really going to do diddly if you're in front of a woman, your emotion and your biology is focused on. The human human qualities, human interaction, talking, knowing what you want to say, recognizing feelings and being able to articulate them. Not being, that's what I mean about conversation. Like, if we just go to math, science, psychological terms and labeling, we're trying to robotically fix something that's emotional. We can only rein in our emotional lives, our dysregulated emotional lives, by philosophically understanding them. It's like you're trying to solve emotion with a calculator. It doesn't work. It needs to be solved with conversation, philosophy, process, metaphor, story, openness, like all the stuff a lot of these guys think that science will save them with. It's like, that's all feelings, chick stuff. Science will save me. Maths will save me. Biology will save me. No, it'll illuminate. Science and numbers and math illuminates. But I always think, and I know in my own experience, I'm being subjective here again, but this is the nuance that's helped me, is philosophically, I found my way through so much more than science. Like, when you really need help, when you're desperate, think about it. Your ex-wife left you, you're destroyed, and someone says, well, the male animal, typically the female, imagine your wife leaves you, takes your kids, destroys your life, humiliates you, makes you pay for them, you lose your job, you're publicly embarrassed, and then you go to information and science and biology and manosphere content, and some wise sage says to you, oh, don't worry about it, human, because the female, not the male of the species, determines all the conditions of the animal family. When said conditions are blah, 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 it's like, I don't care, dude, I want to punch you in the face. I want to talk about what happened. I want to understand what happened. I want to see if I can fix something. This is immediate. This isn't theoretical. This isn't abstract reasoning. This isn't categorizing and labeling things as an intellectual exercise. I'm feeling this. How can I process my feelings philosophically? Not psychologically or scientifically or mathematically or biologically. Later, when the scars have started to heal. Anyway, off on a tangent. Yeah, Falcon Black. Human is preaching. Sorry. I'll get off the pulpit. Git says, I suppose I'm still experiencing the black pill rage that Thinking Ape was talking about and describing. I like the clarity of some black pill thinking, but I don't like the nihilism. Describing what is what can be a sort of cold water on your face. That can be like the science. But if you're in a space that if it's not the medicine you need at the moment, or you might be a personality that doesn't need that medicine. For instance, I've got the personality that likes clarity and most times tough love. Other people, they don't. They like kid gloves. They need another way through their problems. Okay, the numbers are up. We've had 215 concurrent viewers today. Boffin. Yeah, Karu, please behave. Or Boffin has a wrench and he'll kick you off. This is an in-joke, guys. Karu's a good guy. Don't let his personality fool you. Edson says, I don't know about this human. What don't you know? Vero says, I don't adjust, I improve myself. Well, that's an adjustment. Some of the questions I don't understand what you're saying, guys. So I'm not being rude, I just don't know what they mean. Project B, maybe not appropriate. I like the font you use. What is it? In recent videos, it's called Avenir. Avenir. It's a really nice font, I agree. That's why I started using it. Fortis says, I could open up to a dog better. Roth says, it's difficult to disregard your mate who is BPD until it's too late. We try to be the understanding mate for them. When it falls apart, they still try to take all our money. That's right. Like at some point, the parent who loves their kid, who might be an addict, at some point you've got to cut them loose. Because you can only keep helping so often. Again, give the most sympathy to parents because it's their blood. It's hard for parents to cut their children loose, but at some point, if it gets bad enough, even the parent needs to cut their child loose when they keep giving him chances and the children keep not just screwing up, but willfully treating everyone wretchedly and badly and destroying their lives and stealing money and stuff like that. Cynical Optimist says, emotions have its own logic system. Yeah. Dave Sims said it best. He said, in an argument between emotion and logic, logic must capitulate or logic must leave. Logic won't win in an argument over emotion, because emotion can just change and say words to appear right, to sound right, without actually staying on the topic. Emotion doesn't care if it contradicts itself, as long as it can say things to get itself out of a bad situation. Women are fairly good at this. A woman can promise something, and then later she can say, I didn't break my promise, I just changed my mind. So, which drives men nuts. It's like, but you promised. There is no changing your mind. If you didn't promise and you change your mind, you change your mind. But a promise is, I will not move from this position no matter what. But yeah, I know what you mean. Figuratively speaking, emotion has its own logic system, but it's not logic. Com says, human, I'm a writer writing a few books and I'm basing one of the heroes on you. Oh, geez. I hope not. Soram says, after separating from my ex-wife, narcissistic personality disorder, did a lot of self-analysis, CBT, that's cognitive behavior therapy for some of you guys who don't know. Saw a male psychologist who helped me out a great deal. Oh, good. You found someone. Good. Like I said, it's very much rolling the dice. If you've got friends and family you can talk to and open up to and figure out your own problems, I'd say that first, because it's a luck of the draw to find a good psychologist or therapist. And I'd say if you're having particularly male issues relating to relationships from your point of view, I would say see a male psychologist, because a lot of these they get personal. And if you're a female therapist, I think a lot of them are trained with diagnoses, and okay, they said this, they exhibited these things, they belong in this pigeonhole. And on top of that, you've got a lot of women, they don't really care much about men. So I would say, just to play it safe, because it's hard enough to find a good therapist. If you're a guy, you're going through a lot of these male-female relationship, divorce, love, heartbreak stuff, find a male psychologist. And don't just find one that particularly gets you. Lee says, introspection is the bridge between science through the physical and philosophical through the metaphysical. Okay. Yeah. Ruskin says, I agree that philosophy is the correct route, human, because it is close to culture. What do you think? Yeah. Philosophical analysis is, it's at its core, is human based, whereas everything else tends to be ontological. It's about stuff. You can, from a distance, analyze stuff. You can analyze males and females. You can analyze the court system. You can analyze the statistics related to breakups. You can analyze Tinder. You can analyze a lot of stuff. Like I said, all that matters is your ethics and the person in front of you. Sometimes the person's you're looking at the mirror. Sometimes it's actually another person. That's like, you spend your whole life safely behind a screen, taking on the world in a big, epic sort of grandiose thing, and it feels good. It feels like you're watching Star Wars. It's epic, right? But you're still an observer. But it's much richer to sort of make it personal. Bohemian Ash says, Stoic philosophy will help you in the dark. Yes, it can. Stoicism is good, but you got to get past the bitterness. You can't just repeat these things. You can't just believe. This isn't the secret. Darth Seeds says, hello human, I'm just wondering what someone should do if they have a disease and live in daily pain. What should I do and try and remain optimistic and happy about life? First, sympathy to you. Sorry you're going through it, but yeah, look real. Realistically, seeing the situation for what it is one thing. That's the foundation. That's the first step. You are here. This is your life. How can I adjust it for the better? I have this disease. I can't do anything about it. So at least deal with what you can do. I don't want to offer advice because it's going to come across as glib and presumptuous, and a bit, it might even come across as condescending, because I know you're going through more than I can imagine. But let it the F go in terms of what you can't do. Like, stop fighting what you can't do and do what you can. So these are the parameters of what you have in your life, right? What fun and life can you squeeze out of the boundaries that you have in a realistic way? That's all I can kind of give you without seeming like I'm offering advice, because in your situation I don't want to come across as presumptuous. Edson says, I think the theoretical and abstract thinking is the best way to prevent harm. For example, if you know about female nature, you can prevent getting divorced, you know what, by staying away. Yeah, if you... Okay, but what happens if you know in yourself you're a traditional guy, even if it's hard to be traditional now, you want family and kids, rationally, you know you want to have family and kids. It's not just an emotional thing. These guys, they find life is like meaningless unless they have their kids. A lot of men are like that. So, given that it's hard, what does he do? What's the best rational way to go about it today? It's not just avoid it, because a lot of the guys will live in those guys will live in misery because they're not living the life they really want to live. Like, for instance, now, like, I'm heterosexual, right? If, for instance, now it was too dangerous, it's not even theoretical. Imagine now you could only have gay relationships. It's like you can't have serious ones, so that's the only option. This is what you're asking a lot of these guys who want to have a family. It's like the only option is to just stay away. Don't have kids. Don't go next to women, whatever. If you know deep in your bones that you need to be a father, you want to be a father, you're like most guys, biologically driven like that, is the best thing you can do in today's environment, and I'm not telling you to do it or not, is, unlike times gone by where you didn't have to get to know a woman that long, you could trust her, the social norms, church, she'll be shamed by acting the way typical women act today. Back then, you could know her for a short amount of time and then get married. These days, the best thing you can do is be with someone for years before you even discuss moving in. Be with someone for years before you even discuss getting married. Be with someone for years before you even discuss having kids. So you vet the person longer because the environment's dangerous. So the degree to which you can trust the person takes a lot longer because there are no rules anymore. There used to be social rules, so you could trust people longer because we were wrapped up in rules that made sure we were ostracized if we didn't abide by them. We'd be kicked out of society. So you can't sort of... I'm not a big believer in zero risks, because sometimes you struggle, you take calculated risks, and you triumph. But I'm not saying that it's not dangerous out there. A lot more dangerous than it was in terms of relationships with men and women than it was for our ancestors. Cynical Optimist says, I think cognitive therapy is what works best for men. It tends to, I've heard, because it's kind of much more what's the word where it's kind of practical going forward? Praxeological. So theory practice, it actually becomes real. Wayne says, in relation to what you said so far, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self? Probably be cliches that everyone says. Think about what you want more than other people. I think when you're younger, you try and please people more naively. So... also, probably there's a lot less to be afraid of than you think. There's almost nothing to fear. You get older, there's almost nothing to be afraid of. Ivan says, I have found in my 50 years that the most turbulent, destructive periods in my life happened whilst I was in relationships. The single periods are where I recovered and improved myself and do well. Yeah. Because no one's causing scars. No one's poking, ripping at the stitches. Adriano, thank you very much for the super chat. He says, is there saving the family unit in the West? Probably, but they're very, very small enclaves. Rod says, look, it is possible to find a mate who is glorious in every way. Likely not. But what is that line to decide whether it's worth the expenditure of our life or risk? I'm not sure what you're saying, Rod. Sith Lord says, human, when will you get that dog you've thought about getting? I've been thinking about a dog for many years. But I know I wouldn't. I'm not ready for a dog yet. I'll get a dog when I'm pretty much home all the time when I'm retired, and I'll get a dog yeah, when I'm around 24/7. I like the idea of a dog now more than actually having one in my life. It's too much responsibility for me at the moment. And it's one of those things I know if or when I want one in the future. It's like most things in my life. When it was the right time, I did it. Whether it was my house, driving, car, going places, traveling, things like that. I don't like being forced. So, yeah, but a dog's an idea that I like the idea of at the moment more than actually having. So I think it'll be in the winter years of my life. Yeah, give me a thumbs up, guys. It helps the channel. Even though my channel's been frozen most of this year. Rod says, be with someone for years. He says, wow, that seems to be much more difficult as time goes on, especially as we age. Yeah, I mentioned it in a video. You get older, you get very, very specific. So you narrow more and more. You're younger, you're naive, you can fumble around and find people, and you both can grow together in tandem naively and get used to each other and tolerate each other in a nice way, hopefully. You get older, you don't tolerate anything. You need to find a very specific person. And basically it's harder and harder because you don't want to compromise. Not in an unrealistic way, but in like, no, this is who I am. I can't pretend to be someone else. Edson says, I think a traditional man should find a traditional society to live in, or live in a trad community like Amish or religious communities. The other option is to accept a risk. Yeah, but then again, I don't know. Do as you wish. Do as you think. But those communities, something about them I don't like. I can't help it. I don't like being told what to do. Look, I think... But at the same time, I'd be happier if the world had more structure with religion holding the reins, because I think society needs it. Because most people out there aren't philosophically inclined. They like the idea of freedom, but they're not philosophically minded enough to enact it and have the ethics by which to puppeteer their life philosophically the way you need to if you want to be free. So I think they like the idea of freedom. Most people want to be led. Most people want mummy and daddy. But they're spoilt brats. Andy baby, human, are you looking for a soulmate in a woman? Yeah, I don't know if I believe in some of those words. They're being tarnished. I'm not looking for a woman. Like I said, long time ago, I was like, the door's not locked. But like I said, you get older, you get very specific, and you get very realistic. You also like your life, and you don't want to waste any more time. So it's like, I don't want to risk, I don't want to have any more do-overs, because you start realizing my life's really good. I've got family and friends, routines. A lot of people would kill to have just the quiet consistency and solitude I've got in my life. You know, I'm not rich, but my life's really good and really stress-free. So, and because you realize I don't want to be with another person, even if they're nice, a person I don't fit with, try and get along with another nice person, and we're both pulling each other in different directions because our personalities are different, our values are different. I need to, that door's unlocked but shut, and it's only unlocked for a person that's like me. I need to find someone who's a lot like me in my day-to-day and everything, my temperament. It's just the way, and that's just the way it is. So I'm not really looking for a soulmate. I don't know if I believe in it. A lot of these romantic words get co-opted, but it's like the word romantic. I don't believe in romantic love the way they portray it out there in diamond commercials. But I know, and I've been told from exes, that I'm a sweet romantic guy in my own way. But it may not be like I'm completely not a thoughtful person if you talk to some other people who expect different things. So I don't know about these buzzwords: soulmate, romantic love. I know, depending on the topic, I know how I think about it. But yeah. Karu says, make sure it's a female dog. Yeah, I've heard female dogs have a better nature. They can be trained better. Sam says, I was single in 2020 and got fit. Managed to run half marathon and lost 28 kilos of weight. Whoa, that's a lot. Now in 2020 with a girlfriend, I just don't seem to have time to focus on myself. How do I balance these needs? Yeah. Man gets to the finish line and a woman's waiting there. I don't know, man. You basically need to make decisions. You can't live you can't live in two separate places at the same time, and there's no more than 24 hours in a day. If you have needs that, if you're living more in her world, that's why I say you're better off finding someone who likes the same things you like, thinks the same way. If you have to accommodate her, like, let's do her stuff, and now you expect her to do your stuff, and you're always fighting, like, have you given each other enough time in your respective lives? And like, I'm doing more for her, she's not doing stuff for me. That tug of war I can't be bothered with. Just find someone you're compatible with. Compatibility is really, I don't know why more people don't focus on it. Opposites don't attract. Find someone you're really compatible with as much as possible, and you don't need to find much balance. The relationships where I think of where they were the best, I didn't need to compromise. I didn't need to find time to balance because we were very similar. We like similar things, similar lifestyles. I didn't need to give up time and space in my life as much to give to her, and then run off and enjoy my own time as much. Like, it was a lot easier when you're with a more compatible person. Stupid questions I'm not answering, guys. Git, thank you very much for the super chat. He says, do you have any favorite philosophers human? Dostoevsky, Nietzsche, Schopenhauer, yeah. And then the Stoics, they're always really good value, and they're easy to absorb too. Really relatable, really pedestrian, but with sort of a high resolution language to understand. Colin says, dogs are relatable, easygoing. Dogs are fun and easygoing. Yeah, I think that's why guys love dogs, you know, man's best friend. Just fun and easygoing. Just looking at a dog makes you smile. Unless it's ripping up the furniture and shitting all over your carpet. Black Magic says, human, I've been loving the hobo human look lately in your videos. Keep it up. Hobo, as in like the beanie. William says, a dog will make you a better person if you let it happen. Lee says, as the INFJ gets older, fear of life leaves and we become happier single and don't tolerate the insignificant. Is that true? I don't know. Bohemian Ass says, why is your channel being frozen? I have no idea. My subs have been frozen for the last half a year. Like, shortly after I went over 100,000 subs, it started slowing down and it's frozen at 103. It's been that way for a few months now. I don't know if it's been happening to other people too. I'm not just saying it's me, but... Ruskin says, this is an interesting one. He says, relationships are luck. It's like playing in a casino. You get lucky. Point is when you do most of the time. When you do most of that time, accumulates and becomes a burden. What say? The more... I think relationships are less luck the more you're determined to have a moral philosophy about the way you go about them. It's not... I've noticed, like, not just myself the older I get, but guys who are older, whether they date or not, they have more of a take it or leave it approach because they know themselves what they want. They know their limits. It doesn't matter how hot the chick is if she's a nutcase. You won't just take it to bed that once. A lot of things get easier. Diet as well. You get older. It's easier to say no to the donut. It's easier to be disciplined. It's easier because you haven't got time to waste. It's pointless. It's childish to keep doing the same stupid things over and over again. So it's less luck because you know better. You actually feel embarrassed to do what you know is wrong. Sure, you could have bad luck still, but you're not going to do the same things you've done before. Or less likely to, especially if they're overt. The same kind of woman, the same vibe of a woman, you can sort of start to kind of go, I know this, I've been here before. You start to think, you don't just go with the flow. It's not foreign. I've had it a few times later in life when I've gone on dates. It's like, whoa, I recognize that energy. It's this ex, the same kind of thing. I recognize the red flags on this chick. And it's not because of what I learnt online. It's because of what I processed through the information, but what I learnt in my own lived experience with my exes. That's the real lesson. That's where the knowledge has efficacy. It's how you absorb it through your own lived experience, develop your own ethics and moral philosophy, and then when you're in front of someone, the red flags aren't male, female, biology, gynocentrism. The red flags are, oh my god, I'm getting Nancy vibes, I'm getting Karen vibes from this chick, and Karen was a person you went out with. Andy Baby Human, I'm asking because you seem to expect a connection, someone who understands you 100%. No one's ever going to understand you 100%. Most people don't even understand themselves 100%. Intellectually, emotionally, i.e. a female you. Well, I think, especially when you get older, but I think all through your life, if you're smart, if you get smarter as you're younger, if you're lucky enough, is the more you can find a female version of you, the more you can, the better chance of it working. The more chance you're both on the same page, the more the less chance you're pulling each other in opposite directions. Com says, Human, I was once going to get into a relationship with women I knew since we were kids, but she's no longer the cute girl I remembered and she has problems. Well, it's good that you realize that. Terrell Dragoon says, what do you think about the word no and its, in my eyes, underestimated impact? Sorry for the first try, I hit the wrong button. Yeah, not enough guys say no, especially to women, in a nice way. But because biologically, a male's biology doesn't want the eggs to leave, doesn't want the potential of reproduction to leave. Your biology is keeping you there. So the very last thing on the list is to sort of make the woman frown or for her to leave. But it's a good skill to adopt. When you mean to say no or when you want to disagree, too many guys are just agreeable and they mirror a woman so they can fool themselves into liking her just because she's pretty and she's okay to be around. But you keep getting warning signs and like, ooh, that temper was a bit odd. Whoa, I don't like her views on this and that. Ooh. Should I ask her about the F.E. Eminence tattoo on her arm? Nah, don't worry about it. She's just a strong and independent, like, yeah. Ivan says, human, I've noticed that on YouTube across the board, video likes are very close to 10% of views, and that is reliable, often confirmed figure. Okay. Human, are you part Italian or dark Irish? You look like it. No. I'm Northern European. My heritage. I was born in Australia though. Think Balkan Russian side of Europe. Let's see some more comments, really good comments that were left. All right. Said, relating to the video, why don't I like people, or why don't you like people, and what it says about your personality, like why you're resisting. He says, there's one caveat, however. Although I'm always polite to people, lately it seems people are behaving like animals. For example, I say hi, people look at me and then look the other way. I hold the door, there's no thank you. I say bye, there's nothing. I say good morning, and their FKN faces remain buried in their phones. It's just not worth the effort. Men and women, something has changed lately where people are just animals. No, I'm 5'11", dress well, good looking, walk and behave calmly, and I believe I'm attractive. There's nothing in me that could or should repel people. Paul Singh said, yeah. Look, there's nothing you could do about, like, most people aren't great today, so I can see a lot of people ghosting society. When you want to make an effort, everyone's just kind of hiding in their phones. As long as you can see objectively, you sound like you're pretty switched on and level-headed, so what'll be good as well is when a person actually is polite and nice, they will stand out a lot. At least you can give them your time and attention. So if these other people, who cares? Paul Singh says, because our minds, emotions and energy are similar or feed off of each other. If a man has an insufferable bad energy or demeanor, it doesn't matter how red paleted or MGT he thinks he is. Yeah, it doesn't matter if guys belong to part of the manosphere. If they have a bad personality, who cares? I agree. I've encountered many guys with awful personalities in our neck of the woods online, which is why I don't label myself under any group anymore, because I don't even know what it means anymore. There's hardly any individuals. Everyone's like in their church, in their little bubble, in their communities, And the moment you want to have a philosophical discussion that starts colouring outside the lines or asking questions to see how we think about these things, how we can revisit them, it's like, no, the church of this only speaks this way. So Pintree65, under my video, what do you want from people? He said one word, civility. Yeah, that'd be nice. But look, you can't be too pessimistic. Otherwise, like, you've got to engage with the world. You've got to go to the supermarket. So for the benefit of your own day, if it's not going to take anything away, be optimistically glass half full, but expect nothing. That way you won't be disappointed, but you won't be surprised. Mr. Highway said, as you mentioned before, we become more specific as we get older. I come to accept that my personality, coupled with my social upbringing, has made me incompatible with the vast majority of people. I get along well with others, but I can't recall the last time I've genuinely enjoyed someone's company. That feeling where you're with them, hours become minutes. Yeah. I haven't had many times, like, the older I get, I have less times where I'm with people for hours, and it just shows me how people have become more specific and gone their separate ways. There's only a very couple of people in my life at the moment that I can have hour-long conversations with. Dinar says, what do you want, under my video, what do you want from people? He says, I want someone whom I can have a discussion and ideas and conversation with topics without feeling the need to censor myself. Yeah. And what FF said, ditto. It's always at the forefront of my thoughts not to offend, yet I feel the majority don't even have this filter. Yeah, they don't care if they offend you, but somehow if you ask questions about ideas, that's what annoys me. That I'm really wanting to dissect ideas, but you're getting offended at ideas. I'm not judging you, I'm judging the ideas. Oh, that's offensive. I can't stand that either. He says, the older I become, the less likely I am to use this filter, and the consequences are less friends. Yeah. You get tired of acting like if you're polite for the company of others or social environment, but you see they don't return the politeness. It's like they can be rude and abrupt, but you're just curious and have a bit more depth in your conversation, but somehow you're the rude one. You just find out you need to find new friends, or you just need to be on your own. Remember, guys, if you want to ask a question, put emojis there. I'll keep reading some of the comments from people under some of the more notable comments under my last few videos. Pete the Grouch said, under my video, what do you want from people? He says, while it might be somewhat broad term, I think the main thing I want is what probably about 90% of people do, acceptance. Yeah, that's an interesting term, acceptance. Yeah, I think most of us do. Acceptance and to be seen and to be... It's kind of like proof you're alive. Someone sees me. I think people are trying to do that on social media in a very perverted way that actually doesn't satisfy you as a human being. Just to be seen by being liked. Oh, someone liked me, they saw me. No, they didn't. They just hit a button and you got a thumbs up. You're getting a very poor simulacra of actually being seen and noticed. That acceptance and being seen and acknowledged and connected with another human being, that's what you really want. That's what people aren't getting. He says, to be around those who share similar interests and are willing to accept, within reason, of course, me for what and who I am. And ideally, for me to be able to extend the same courtesy. Yes, fairly. There's few things quite so draining as to be around those who we feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells. Yeah, tell me about it. Especially ex-girlfriends. All out of fear of offending someone. Sadly, in this present climate, such a thing is becoming harder and harder to avoid. Hence why I don't really bother socially anymore. Sad times. Yeah, and look, I say ex-girlfriends because in those situations, guys especially, they want to be the most honest. They want to share the most. They want to be the most open and relaxed. the further out you go from that most intimate relationship, that's why guys talk about women and relationships, because that's where we care the most. We're harder and harder and colder the further out from that we go in the world. The further in the world we go, the more impersonal it is, the less we care. That's why I feel like guys talk so much about women in relationships. That's where we're the most honest and alive and the most caring and the most giving and most introspective and meaningful in a lot of ways. When we start caring a lot about abstract stuff, interesting, we love it in ways women don't understand, but it's kind of safe. It's out there. We get different things out of it, but personally, that's why we talk about women in relationships a lot. Because you don't really get people getting offended when you're talking about biology or science. It's always about social dynamics, especially between men and women. VKT said under my video, do people like you and are you easy to be around? He said, you forgot to ask, do you want people around you? Well, that goes without saying. But, and then he continues, for me, people who I want around, yeah, that's what I was about to say. For people you want around, I get out of my way to do things for them, yes. Of course, you don't want people around you who aren't compatible with you, but that goes without saying. He says, people who I don't want around, I build very high walls for, as you might say. Yeah, that's rational. That boy Fred says under my video, do people like you? Are you easy to be around? He says, I'm just a guy on the humans comment section, but carry this advice with you. Get rid of those who add nothing to your life. Keep those who critique you in a constructive way, and keep as well those who cherish your success. Friends aren't numbers, but those who you can count on when life pulls the carpet from under your feet. Yeah. Those that are there for you when you need them in bad times, but also friends who celebrate when you achieve something good too. Because some people pull you down. They're not really your friends. Nicholas, under my video, do people like you? Are you easy to be around? He said, why do people like me? Because I'm honest and knowledgeable. Why do people dislike me? Because I'm honest and knowledgeable. I notice I'm less polite as I get older, and as such, more philosophical and conversational. And I notice that most people aren't. Again, you get narrow. You know what you like. You know who you are. I know I feel more alive being this person. And so I know I'll feel less alive if I just pick some bimbo or a friend or a job or an environment where I just plonk my body, shut my mouth and switch my brain off, and I don't feel alive. I have less life ahead of me that I want to feel more alive in, so I'm going to place myself in a narrower environment that I know I'll feel alive in, because I know where my lane, that's where I am. So I need to find people and places and routines. That's where my life is. I've tried the other stuff. Done it. Don't want it anymore. This is where I live. And other people, this is where I can interact closely. Everything else, surface, acquaintances, take it or leave it. Aaron says, it's not your job to like me, it's mine. Quote by someone unknown. That's a good saying. It's not your job to like me, it's mine. Know thyself, like thyself, know where you stand. Lord Erectus said, the question is, human, would you benefit a friend who you had never met and take them on face value? No, but the only way you can trust someone is to trust them. So when you meet someone, if you feel good and you want to open up a bit, you open up a bit. See, if they reciprocate in a way that's comfortable, then you open up a bit more. The problem is guys just open up and they just keep going until they crash and they go, can you believe how many years I gave this girl who just kept kicking me in the face? It's like, why did you stay that long? It's not like she was great and then you noticed, but yeah. Anyway, guys, unless there's any more questions, I think we've been going for an hour and a half at the moment. Let me know if you want me to do any more night streams, which you prefer. The morning ones that I usually do, or I can do these night ones every now and then. I can mix them up. Hopefully I was coherent. I mainly do them in the morning because I feel like I'm mentally more alert. This is at midnight, at the end of a long day for me. Screaming says, is our ability to say no also caused by our upbringing, not only our reproductive instincts? Yes, that's a very good point. I think our upbringing has a big thing. The nurture aspect of our upbringing is a big factor of why we can't say no when we weren't allowed to say no in a constructive way. A lot of times now, this modern parenting where they just let Junior just express themselves any way they want, I think it's stupid. It's gone too much the other way. But old school parenting, it had a lot of benefits. One of them, that's depending on how you were raised, where you couldn't disagree and you couldn't say no. If you couple that with a lot of other psychological stuff when you're a child, it can have really deleterious effects when you get older and you can't say no to people you love. You know, think about that. You love a woman, you can't say no. You don't want her to leave. Who was it that said recently that most of our neuroses are based, all of our anxieties, like the inability to say no, we want the safe space, like all of us, it's all just a figurative way to return back up our mother, because that's our safest primordial place. He says, being made to feel guilty whenever we disagree with our parents or the system. Yeah. Don't say no to authority. And a lot of men, think about this, their girlfriend is their authority. Ooh, I got the job. She said yes to me. I've got the job, you know. I'm with a mummy replacement. I'm with love authority, the female love authority of my life. I'll just be agreeable, do everything. A man does everything anyway. So, no. It's very hard for a man to cut that umbilical cord and learn how to say no to a woman respectfully when he means it. Just like he can say it easier, a lot easier with his friends and other places. That's why even the smartest men, the most confident men, when it comes to women, they just change into a 5-year-old. Chinza says, I've worked in kitchens and construction and I dread interacting with those kind of people. Will it be different if I get a more sophisticated job? I doubt it. There was so much political correct politics when I used to work in corporate, which is the reason I got out. I couldn't stand it. Talk about having to live in the fake world. It's really bad. So anywhere that's got HR, I'd say your chances of being able to be real go down significantly. Andy Baby says, Human, are there any questions you would like an answer to? Oh, thanks for asking. I think I ask a lot of them in my videos. I'm posing questions to you so you guys can think about them the same way I pose these questions to myself because I find them interesting. Like, what do you think about this question, Human? Like, what would you guys think about if you asked yourself? And then you start answering them. When you start answering your own questions that are important, you know where you stand in them. Any questions that I would like answer to? There's too many people. I don't know. I asked the question before. Do you like these evening ones, or do you want me to continue to do the morning ones? I suppose whether it's a majority of you weren't able to actually catch up with my morning live streams. Devon says, Human, I would like your opinion on the idea of no filter at all, that being the person can and will say whatever they want or feel right at any time. Is that healthy? No, you've got to have tact. Again, if you've got enough people in your circle that know you and tolerate you, but then you can be so honest that you're rude. Because if, say for instance, you can talk about something a painful, like you can talk with no filter about, say, divorce. But if someone who's just been divorced and going through a lot of pain, you can't talk just loosely about it. You got to be a bit sensitive or mindful. If you respect the person, you can't kind of talk flippantly, because it's really meaningful for them at this moment personally, whereas for you it's just intellectual. So I think you got to have a bit of tact. So there are some people who are socially awkward, intelligent as they might be, but they can be rude as well. So yeah, no filter. People could say, oh, at least they're honest, but I don't think those people can really be trusted, or if they can, they're very awkward. Lack of kind of tact, sympathy, empathy, and just like cold hard truth. I think it's not that civilized. Dr. Death says, human, what is the dividing line between women and men's boogeymen and men taking responsibility for bad life choices? Yeah, men and women are acting like the worst versions of themselves. Men are kind of acting like women these days, because women don't seem to sort of, they're not, women sort of, guys thought that, you know, girl power would blow over. It's just getting worse and worse. And then after generation and kids see their fathers went through this, it's like, well, I'm not putting up with this anymore. I'm going to have a different life to my dad. Women play this game, I'm going to play this game too. I see how it worked out for my dad, who got divorced and was a nice guy. I'll play women's game, since, you know, I know what I'll get if I play the nice guy. Look at these women acting like dragons. Do I really think acting nice is going to get me love? No, you're going to fight the dragon by being a dragon. You can maybe get away with 1 or 2 generations where there are girl power women and nice guys, but the nice guys get filtered out. The nice guys don't survive, where nearly every girl out there is, you know, Miss Girl Power. So guys need to adapt. It's very Darwinian. All right, guys. I think we've been going for long enough. It was a good chat. Night session. I haven't done this in a while. Bit of variety. See, even a creature of habit like me can try a bit of variety every now and then, within the realms of what I know I like. All right, guys. Take care. I had fun. Keep the comments coming. Give me a thumbs up, like, subscribe. Comment on the last couple of videos, because they're all centered around, have a look at your own personality. What can you adjust to better your life socially? Doesn't mean you need people, you need friends. Yes, I know the strongest man is the one most comfortable in his own skin and alone, but it doesn't mean that you're only happy being alone and being a shut-in. There's just the majority of guys who talk tough. You need to learn at least some social skills. You go to the supermarket. You've got some people in your life. You can't be a robot, because too many of them try and socialize online and they're too awkward. I feel like some of these people, do you order your groceries in? Because it seems like you don't even relate to people in real life. Anyway, guys, the last couple of years we're chewing on being self-reflective. If you're a person observing yourself, what do you need to sharpen and get better at? It's easy to get defensive when women of the world are really bad, and so you don't need to adjust because you think, women are really, they treat me badly like this, and I'm down here, so why should I even adjust at all? For what? For them? But in terms of, you could actually be missing out on friends or relationships because you've got a wall of bad traits, bad behavior, or making yourself invisible because of your bad characteristics and temper or whatever it might be, or isolation and whatever, or like trying to be ultra safe in today's world and not interacting with anyone, that you could have good friends, relationships, platonic, romantic, whatever you want, whatever you don't, but you've got all these walls that no one can see it. Would you be your own friend? So adjustments for you socially so you can have a better life to the degree that you want to have people in your life. That's what I'm saying. So let me know your comments in the comments section of the last few videos, and give us a thumbs up, like, all the good stuff, and I'll catch you soon in the next video, guys. Have a good afternoon, day, or night. Later. Bye.